Welcome back. A week after Election Day, Governor Sarah Palin explained the GOP losses to NBC's Matt Lauer.
Perhaps the margin was going to be larger than we anticipated. And then just that anti-incumbency sentiment, really, that was spread across the land, and our ticket representing the incumbency, it's really not so much a surprise, after all, that the margin was as great as it was.
Was the Republican defeat inevitable? Does the party need to change? A group of Republican governors will take up these questions tomorrow when they meet in Miami, Florida, with us to look back on the presidential campaign and forward to the future of the party and his own role in it. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. And Governor, first of all, you're going to be participating in this conference tomorrow. What's your view as to why the Republicans lost? Was there a fundamental problem with the McCain-Palin ticket?
Well, I don't think it was just about the campaign. When you look at the Republican Party, there are basically three things we've got to correct for us to start winning elections again. Number one, our actions have to match our rhetoric. The Republican Party has talked about spending discipline, cutting taxes, and yet we were defending out-of-control spending in Washington we would have rightfully criticized in the other party. Number two, we have to root out corruption within our own ranks. A week before the election, you've got our most senior United States Senator convicted of federal charges. We can't defend behavior, again, that we would rightfully criticize on the other side. And then finally, third and most importantly, we again have to be the party of solutions. We have to apply our conservative principles to the challenges that are confronting the American people, whether it's the rising cost of health care, whether it's the economy, whether it's international challenges. We have to show real solutions. It's not enough. You can't win an election simply by criticizing the other side. Now, the good news is this. There is a map for us back, and you go back to the 90s, Republican governors helped to lead the way with policies like welfare reform. By supporting education, by supporting people's ability to go back to work, we're able to reduce welfare rolls, reduce poverty rates. Those are the kinds of creative solutions that it'll take for the Republican Party to come back. Now, the good news is I continue to believe we live in a center, a moderate country, a center-right country, and I think that as long as the voters see us applying our principles to solving problems, we can start winning elections again.
Governor Jindal, Governor Palin is scheduled to give very high-profile remarks at this conference that you are attending. She's also planning on having a very high-profile news conference. Will you do the same?
Well, I'm looking forward to going and meeting with other governors, learning from them, sharing what we've done in Louisiana. We've cut taxes, reformed the ethics
Governor,
code.
what do you make, though, of what Sarah Palin is going to be doing over the next couple of days in this very same conference that you're attending? What is she up to?
Well, look, I think I think the Republican Party needs as many voices right now, but it's not just the messengers, it's the content, it's the substance of the message. We need our governors to speak out. We need our leaders, the local, the state level. You know, not all wisdom's contained in Washington, and we need our congressional members to speak out as well. But I think you're going to see the states become laboratories of experimentation. I think it's a good thing that Sarah Palin's going to be speaking out. I hope all of our governors will talk about what they're doing in their states, learning from each other. The Founding Fathers intended the states to be laboratories of experimentation. That's a good thing. One other thing I want to add, though, Senator McCain and Governor Palin, they were very gracious on election night. Senator McCain's remarks were very gracious on election night. I think it's so important. We need to support the president-elect, the new Congress. The election's over. Whether you voted for the president-elect or not, we all need to support him. We need him to be successful. We need to stand up and oppose him on principle when we disagree, but we should work together. The country is tired of partisan attacks. The campaign is over. Now's the time to work together.
Well, on that point, then, wouldn't it be better for Republicans if Sarah Palin, who so many Republicans, of course, associate with John McCain's loss, if she took something of a breather, cooled down, essentially, didn't have such a high-profile engagement this week? Wouldn't that be better for the Republican Party in your estimation?
Not at all. I think our governors need to speak out, and I think the voters are going to be looking at substance. I know there's going to be a lot of focus and a lot of speculation on who the messenger is going to be, who's the new faces are going to be, but the reality is people are looking for substance. The message is so much more important than the messenger at this point. People want out of this conference, they want to hear what are Republican governors going to do.
But Governor, you would acknowledge that there's some people who are better at delivering that substance than others, right?
Well, I'm biased. I think our governors are great messengers. I think that our governors should speak out. I think that again, I think the Founding Fathers got it right, that solutions, governors have to work across party lines. They've got to balance their budgets. They've got to solve problems. It's not about ideology. It's about getting things done at the state level. So I tend to think that governors are great messengers, but I think voters will be looking for substance, not just messengers.
But, of course, there is a big ideological divide in terms of which way the Republican Party should go in the future. Here's what David Brooks has written about the GOP divide. In one camp, there are the traditionalists, the people who believe that conservatives have lost elections because they've strayed from the true creed. The other camp, the reformers, argue that the old GOP priorities were fine for the 1970s but need to be modernized for new conditions. Only one thing is for sure. In the near term, the traditionalists are going to win the fight for supremacy in the GOP. Your view?
Well, I think you can be a traditionalist and a reformer. I think that it's absolutely true. When you ask voters, they'll tell you they trust the Democrats more to control spending, to cut taxes. That tells us something's very wrong. The Republicans are not living up to our rhetoric. So in part, it is not abandoning our core conservative principles. But I also think, just like President Reagan broadened the party by winning over Reagan Democrats, we have to show the American people that our conservative principles can work on problems they care about. It's not just going back to the 70s and the 80s. It's talking about medical inflation. It's talking about the number of uninsured folks out there, working families. It's talking about investing in our crumbling infrastructure. It's talking and showing how we can solve problems that matter to the American families that are worried about their nest eggs, their retirement accounts, that are worried about this economy. They're worried about the high cost of energy. So it's not abandoning our core principles. It's being true to them, but it's also solving problems that matter to American people. We've got to show people that we've got a solution to the high cost of energy, the dependence on other countries. We've got to show voters there is an alternative to government-run health care that provides high-quality, affordable health care. For moms and dads out there, they don't care about their first concern today is not about ideology. It's about how do I pay for my son and daughter to go see the doctor? How do I make sure I can afford their prescriptions? We need to show, and I think governors are in a great position to do this, we need to show the American people we've got solutions to these problems. And I think that's what makes this conference so important. We did it in the 90s with welfare reform as just one example. With the balanced budget amendment that we brought to Washington, we can do it again.
And yet the conference is going to be dominated, of course, as probably it should be, by a lot of Republicans wondering what went wrong over the past year. You gave an interview to the NBC affiliate WDSU in which you talked about the job of the vice president. Watch.
With Senator McCain's campaign this year, even when when I was putting my name was put on all those lists, I was very clear. I don't want to be vice president. I've got the job that I want. Indeed, I declined to be vetted.
Now, a lot of other possible vice presidential nominees said the same thing, but were you surprised when they actually didn't even attempt to vet you, Governor?
Well, no, they asked me to be vetted. They actually contacted me and asked me to be vetted, and we politely declined. I said I was honored that they wanted me to do that, but the reality is that I do have the job that I want. I've been governor for about a year now. We've cut taxes 6 times, including the largest income tax cut in our state's history. We've revamped ethics. Louisiana is now on the top of the list, according to the Center for Public Integrity, Better Government Association's indices. And so we've made some reforms. We've revamped workforce training. We've created thousands of new jobs, but we've still got a lot more work to do. So I was flattered when they asked me to be vetted, but I told them what I'd said all along, which was that I've got the job that I want. I certainly supported the ticket, but didn't want to be a part of the ticket. But again, I was certainly flattered that they thought of me. I was even flattered to be mentioned in the same sentences with some of those other names.
Well, Governor Jindal, we're flattered that you took the time tonight to join us, and we appreciate you joining us in this program.
Well, thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you for having me.